Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name's Simon Wicks. I'm the CEO of Butler Rose. Some of you may know me, and hopefully you all know of Butler Rose. You've joined our live webinar. I'm going to be joined by Chris Oxley, who I'll introduce to you shortly. Chris works for UHY Hacker Young, and he's going to be talking to you about the how you can grow your business with business intelligence. And I'm going to give you an overview later on as well of how the recruitment market has changed in light of COVID. So if you are in the audience, like I say, thanks for joining us. Your video's off, as you can see, and you're on mute, but there is a live Q&A chat function that you can ask any questions you might have in or interact with us. So if you have any questions or comments throughout the sessions this morning, please feel free to type them into the Q&A, and we'll answer them at the end of each session. So I will be back on later on to give you an overview of the recruitment market. But in the meantime, I'm delighted to introduce you to our guest speaker. So that's Chris Oxley from UHY Hacker Young. Morning, Chris.
Hi, Simon. Yeah, thanks for the introduction, and thanks everyone for coming along. As Simon mentioned, I'm Chris Oxley, partner for UHY Hacker Young here in our Manchester office. I'm really excited today to talk to you about business intelligence and really how you can start to jump on the bandwagon of softwares and apps and utilising artificial intelligence now to help with better decision making and ultimately lead to better growth of your business. We understand here at UHY that regardless of your size of business, whether you're a 100 million turnover business or a 1 million turnover business, or profits are sky high this year, wherever you are in that business cycle, that you all rely on financial information to help you make better decisions. Now, typically that's going to consist of profit and loss accounts, balance sheets, possibly even a cash flow forecast, especially if you've got an internal finance team there that are helping you produce this information. And that takes time to produce. Possibly you're getting that weeks or months after a period end, and is it relevant? Is it in date? And also it's always in the same format, the same barrage of numbers on a piece of paper that everyone's then expected to be able to look at, to understand, and to make then informed decisions from. But actually, is there more that you can do, or you can obtain, or you can get to help aid that decision-making process? And we found here at UHY that actually, if we start to give businesses more visual figures, more visual performance data, and more interactive performance data, and actually intuitive information that you can mold, you can change, you can update there and then with real-time information, just helps to be proactive for us as advisors, but you as business owners, and ultimately to help you make those decisions to then ultimately lead to growth of a business. So regardless of the information, it's there, and it's expected to be interpreted by a bunch of different people, whether it be a board of directors, potential investors to a business, the bank, or if you're just a general owner managed business yourself as the owner, and you're looking at this information and how relevant is it, and how much are you actually getting from that data then to be able to make those decisions. So what we've started to do here at UHY, and we've seen fantastic results from in terms of then growth of our clients, is actually splitting it down into three parts, and not three parts in terms of your generic profit and loss balance sheet and cash flow forecasting, but actually going one step further and going a bit more granular with that data to actually display it and visualize it in a different way that's going to help and ultimately lead to better decisions. And firstly, after a couple of minutes of chatting, we've got a video representation of what this can potentially look like for your business, but ultimately it's split down really into three main parts. So we like to look at this in three main areas of focus really when looking at utilising business intelligence for that better, more informed decision making. And it starts off first with something that we call Goal Tracker. Now, Goal Tracker, it utilises then the data that you've got and displays it in a complete different way to your generic information that I mentioned before. And actually it starts to look more in depth at information and really starts to track key performance indicators. So what we do with our clients is actually we'll sit with a business. We know business growth. We know business growth across all sizes, all sectors, and we can sit with with a group of key decision makers and ultimately help to formulate and decide on actually what are the key performance indicators that we need to be measuring and monitoring here. How can we get that information then into more bespoke and tailored format so it's easily identifiable and understandable by the people that are using it, but ultimately, how can we make that interactive? How can we be sat together and suddenly click into that financial data, really drill down there and then into what those performance indicators are and how we're actually doing with them and what we can do better then to ultimately lead to further growth of the business. So the goal tracker area is something that's really well adopted now by our clients, and something that's really starting to, I suppose, take limelight over your basic profit and loss and balance sheets. And actually, it's almost less data that you're getting, but it's more bespoke data and better data for making decisions. So the first element is goal tracker, which you'll see shortly. The second element of our business intelligence is closer to home on your profit and loss and your balance sheet and cash flow forecast. So it's that analysis that potentially you still want to see, but it's more detailed analysis and it's more in-depth analysis. And actually, it's starting to get that information, get it out of your general format, but put it into more visual ways that people can understand. Because at the end of the day, everyone sat around that table as your key decision makers might not be as financially sound as the person on the left. They might not necessarily understand the ins and outs of a profit and loss account or a balance sheet, but what they do understand is visual data in the forms of graphs, pie charts, colours, red ticks and red crosses for bad performance, green ticks for good performance. And actually, it's simple things, but it's getting it in a way that actually people understand. And if people understand the information and people understand the performance, then ultimately you're going to get better decisions from it, and better decisions are going to lead to better growth. So the performance analysis tool is closer to home, but it's taking that analysis one step further. And then the most exciting piece of the puzzle really is what we call the business roadmap. And the business roadmap is where we, as advisors, we can sit with your internal finance function or do it externally, remotely, or from an external basis. It's starting to get that real-time information, but start to plan forward and plot forward. And it's not just a cash flow forecast. Actually, it's starting to go one step further than that and sit with your decision makers and actually start to micro forecast plans for growth. So, for example, we could be sat together with your finance team or with yourselves as potential owners of the business, and you're looking for a route to growth, and potentially you've decided, right, okay, what I want to do is I'm going to open up a new office. I'm going to open up a new office or buy a new piece of plant and machinery or a production line if you're a manufacturing business. And what does that look like in terms of an impact on the business, impacts on not just your profit and loss and balance sheet, but your future growth? And previously, that would have taken 1, 2, 3 days potentially to plot out by a management team whilst I was there. Whereas now we can sit with you, we can plot that real time, we can plot that data into forecast there and then. And it's that scalable now and that moldable that we could be sat with you, we could be changing data and we could be changing costs or projections there and then, and straight away see the impact on that cash flow forecast and see the impact on that business growth cycle. And actually, those decisions can be made all sat around a table looking at that data that's intuitive on a screen. So there's a lot of exciting things now that this business intelligence, as it's badged up, the artificial intelligence, your management reports, your apps, whatever you want to badge it up as, but the tools that we've got now to be able to provide better business advisory. And it's a term that gets bandied around quite a lot now in the accountancy space or sphere, that everyone's trying to jump on business advisory. But ultimately, the tools are there, but you still need the advice to be able to use those tools to then make those informed decisions. So what I've got coming up now is one of my senior cloud accountants, Max. Max is going to run you through a demo of what these look like, just so you get a flavour of actually what it can do for your business.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Chris. As Chris mentioned, my name is Max, and I'm a senior cloud accountant here at UHY Hacker Young in Manchester. Our aim here at UHY is to help you as business owners, firstly to understand your business and how it has performed looking back, and then to go one step forward and see how your business is forecasted to perform over the coming months and years along. We aim to be able to provide you that service with our new offering, UHY Insights. Firstly, before I get started, I'd just like to say our management accounts information system seamlessly integrates with the likes of Xero, QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, and MYOB. However, there is also an import data function via Excel. So as long as your current account system can export to Excel, then we will definitely be able to help, not just to report on single company data, but also to report on consolidated group information. I'll be taking you through the 3 levels of management information that UHY Hackett Young Manchester have to offer. These firstly being Goal Tracker, then onto our performance analysis offering, and finally our business roadmap offering. So let's get started. So kicking off with our Goal Tracker, this is our bronze level of management information. Our reports are available via a PDF export, but I will be taking you through our interactive web-based reports, which allows slightly more functionality when hovering over the numbers. Our Goal Tracker report is going to offer a range of in-depth analysis tools and metrics, which help you see exactly how well your business is performing. This will help you assess profitability, cash flow, growth, and other key performance indicators or KPIs within your business. Okay. So we will give you the ability to customize and track not just the financial data within your business, such as your gross profit margin, but also your personalized non-financial metrics that matter most to your business, such as customer satisfaction or even staff employment related targets. KPIs that matter most to your business will be set during an initial consultation with your UHY advisor. So let's take you through one of our KPIs as an example. Let's take total revenue as an example. Between you as a business owner and me as your UHY advisor, we may have set our December 2020 targets, giving ourselves a target revenue of around £60,000. Our Goal Tracker report was going to display what our actual result is, being just over £100,000. How that compared to the previous month of November, being an 8% increase. And then finally, how important that target is to us as a business. So here we've got total revenue being a critical target. So we understand that in business, whether you're a marketing director or you're a financial director, your levels of accounting may vary, and you may find it easier to interpret data in a different manner, whether that's through graphs or charts. So alongside this initial KPI table, which you might see here, we're going to display the information in a couple of charts as well. So in the first chart we've got here, this is going to split our KPIs down into subcategories such as efficiency and cash flow. And in our second KPI chart, it's the same exact information, just displayed slightly differently, this time by how important it is to the business. As you can see, the green means the KPI has been met, and the red means that the KPI has not been met for this month. This gives you further insight, helps you make sort of more informed decisions. Finally, our report is going to go on to explain what each one of these KPIs mean down here in the KPIs Explain section. So this will go into a bit further detail on what the KPI is, how it's been measured, and how well whether you've met that KPI or not. Okay. And finally, the Goal Tracker report will also include a summarized profit and loss. This is going to track your results against the previous month. Let me just jump down into that. So this profit and loss is going to track your results against the previous month, just to ensure that your business is moving in the right direction. And if not, why not? Okay. Secondly, I want to move on to our silver level of management accounting, this being our performance analysis offering. So let's jump into that. Secondly, I want to move on to our silver level of management accounting, this being our performance analysis report offering. Okay, so just to be clear, our offering is going to include the KPI analysis I've just covered, plus the following. Firstly, the executive summary. Okay, this is going to summarize the key points of the report. It will highlight the major focus areas within the management information, and then it's going to go one step further by describing the results, conclusions, or recommendations that we think you as business should take. Let's pick profitability ratio as an example. This is effectively showing what percentage of revenue generates into profit. This is one that's going to be relevant to all you as business owners, And in the executive summary, we've indicated that the profitability ratio is just over 20%. And we will then go on to explain how you as a business can improve this. This obviously being very basic in this scenario. This being, if you increase sales volume or sales price, or reducing cost of sales, or reducing your operating expenses, it's going to have a positive outcome on your profitability ratio. Okay. Also included within the performance analysis is the profit and loss report, as was included in the previous offering. But then we will then include the balance sheet within this offering. Again, this is going to give insights to how well your business is performing in comparison to the previous periods, giving movement from the previous periods as well. The third section within this report is our revenue and profitability analysis. This does exactly what it says on the tin. This is going to analyze your revenue against targets and against previous and actual periods. This data is going to be then brought to life with the beautiful charts you can see here. So the data can be easily compared and trends can be determined. Okay. So firstly, we have the revenue analysis. This just shows our total revenue, our target revenue, and how our revenue compares to the previous month. So it's going to go and show our revenue for the past 6 months in charts. And for each month, it's going to show how well you did in that particular month, 12 months prior. Okay. So that's quite handy, quite useful, and quite good for you as business owners to make insightful decisions. Okay. It's going to give your top 10 revenue income streams if you, in your accounting software, like to categorize your revenue by income streams. So that is also very useful. Then it's going to go on to show a trend in your revenue over the past 6 months and how it thinks your target projection may be over the following 6 months. Okay. Then we move on to our profitability analysis. This is going to give you great insight to your break-even point, which is effectively the amount your company must sell in order for you to generate a profit, alongside some other great insights. And finally, the most important section of our performance analysis offering. And this is going to give you in-depth cash flow analysis. Okay, so just scrolling down to our cash flow analysis there. Cash flow, often a buzzword that you may have heard over the past 12 months, and for all the right reasons. Cash is king, and if you're making a profit, but the bank balance keeps on going down, there's going to be a fundamental issue there. And this report will indicate where in the business your cash is going, and you can then go and determine negative trends in cash flow before it is too late. Okay, as you can see, we're going to have sort of in-depth explanations of what each figure means. And this chart is personally quite a favorite chart of mine. This starts by showing our positive inflow of cash. So a positive inflow of cash generated by revenue is a green bar here. And then coming off that positive inflow of cash is our negative outflows of cash related to cost of sales and expenses. And it'll go down there and it'll start chipping away at that positive income we've generated through revenue. Until we get right to the bottom and we can see that there's been net movement for the month of cash flow of a positive inflow of £15,000. So we can keep a track on whether the business is, cash flow positive or negative. And that rounds it up for our performance analysis offering of management information. So this leads me to our third and final offering, this being the gold standard of management information and the UHY business roadmap. This is going to really ensure that you as business owners future-proof your business through what's going to be a tough couple of years post the pandemic. So we need to plan for every possibility. Again, this report is going to include all of the information I previously showed you, plus the following information. So first up within the business roadmap offering is our forecasting report. Okay, and this is going to take your forecasting experience to the next level. It's going to enable you as a business owner to stay up to date with intelligent predictions by offering financial trend analysis and forecast projections. So as you can see on my screen here, this is going to look forward against projections and look back against actual data, giving a full comparison of how we're likely to perform over a 12-month period. Okay, next up is the micro forecast section. So what a micro forecast is, it's going to allow us to build specific forecasts based on business events without having to rebuild our complete forecast altogether. Okay, so as you can see, our micro forecasts down here. This is going to go on to show a change in cash effect if we were to employ the scenario that we've built in our micro forecast, such as employing a new staff member or purchasing a new piece of machinery. So if we were to employ a new staff member over the following months, it's going to have this effect in our cash within the business. Okay. The cash projection scenario below, this is going to allow us, with the help of these clear comparison charts, to explore new scenarios by quickly adjusting our main forecast. We have the ability to model what will happen and when, and these can be toggled during an interactive meeting with myself or another one of the UHY advisors. Okay, and finally, right at the bottom, we can see how the above scenarios and micro forecasts will affect the operating profit margin, not just cash flow. So as we can see here, if we decide to go with a new team or not to go with a new team, this will be the effect on the operating profit margin within the business. So that is our final offering, the UHY business roadmap. So that's all from me, and I'm going to hand it back over. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to either myself or another one of the UHY advisors, and we'll be happy to talk you through what we can offer you as a personalised service from any of our 3 offerings that I've been talking over today. Thank you.
So yeah, thanks a lot, Max. No one needs to check the watches or adjust the time. I think Max recorded that at night, which is why it was dark in the background. But hopefully you could take a little bit of an idea of how potentially that can look. And I think it's important to reiterate that all of that information that's there can be tailored to your needs. So all of the graphs that you saw across all of the 3 different sections can be tailored and will be tailored depending on what your business is doing, where it wants to go, and actually what it needs to analyse and look at. And especially with the last piece as well, with regards to the business analysis tool. Again, it's hard to demonstrate, but in terms of how powerful it is, the fact that you can just use those slider bars to move your micro forecasts around your projections, and it just changes the figures at an instant. I think the ability that's there for you as a business is absolutely fantastic now with the business intelligence tools that are out there. What I'd say is that as well, with all of the information that's there, you can drill down into all of that information there and then. So if you see a figure for potentially gross profit or revenues or expenditure or just general cash, and you want to know how that figure's come about, again, with the tools, you can literally click in it and then it'll display all of that nominal data from your core accounts function. So hopefully you can see now how technology is moving on. Potentially you're using bits of it already, if you've got an internal finance function that maybe you are starting to use better reporting. But if it's something that anyone wants to look at in any more depth, then by all means I'd love to have a conversation with you to see how potentially we could support out, or how potentially we could give your team a better idea of what they can do and what they can utilise now to ultimately aid better decision makings and help business growth performance. So that's everything from me. My details are on the screen now, and I'm sure the slides will be shared after. Again, also if anyone wants to see any of those reports, I'm more than happy to fire generic examples out. Obviously that one there was relatively low in terms of income and revenue projections, but the figures are obviously just a demo account figures. So yeah, more than happy to send anything across after, but I'll pass back across to Simon now for I think some Q&A.
Thank you, Chris. That was really good, really informative. Haven't had any questions come into the Q&A at the moment, so I did send out a note during it to ask anyone if they've got any questions to ask anything they might want to know. So there's nothing in on the live Q&A at the moment. If you do have any questions, please feel free to ping them through. I believe, Chris, you're going to hang on for a bit, aren't you? And if you still be here at the end. So if you're still around, then we'll come back to your questions at the end. Right, so just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to switch over to my slides. So, right, here we go. So I'm going to have a chat with you just about the future of finance recruitment in light of what's happened in the market over the last 12 months or so, because there have been a lot of changes which are hopefully on the way out now, but some changes that are here to stay. So just to give you a brief background on myself. So I've been in accounting and finance recruitment now for 24 years, worked with some sort of large national A&F recruiters. I launched Butler Rose back in 2014, so just over 7 years ago now. We've always specialised in accountancy and finance. We do have a procurement and supply chain division now as well. We've got multiple locations across the UK. We're PE backed, so we've opened a number of offices over that time, including Manchester and Preston. I just wanted to say thank you to Davina and James from those teams who've helped in setting this webinar up this morning for our Northwest clients. So thank you. And over the 24 years that I've been in recruitment, I've seen a lot of changes, but probably none as sweeping and as it's probably here to stay in some ways as the ones we've seen very quickly over the last 12 to 15 months. So I'm going to run through the phrase that's bandied around quite a lot, but the sort of new normal and what what the new normal is, what's probably here to stay for you as if you're looking to recruit into your accountancy and finance teams. What the current market's like for finance staff, for candidates, because there have been quite a lot of changes there. And again, some that are probably here to stay. And candidate expectations as well. There have been some radical changes around that in light of COVID and the change in working practices. So I'll give you an overview of those. And then just a brief look at sort of, finance structures and, how the future might look in your team and some things to consider. Again, if you have any questions, we go through, pop them into the Q&A, whether it's for me or for Chris, and we'll cover those off at the end. So the new normal, again, a phrase that's been bandied around quite a lot, but what does that look like and what's here to stay? So, obviously, just over a year ago, a lot of companies had to mobilise people to work from home. Certainly in our group, we had to mobilise about 700 people to work from home pretty much overnight. Thankfully, we already had that technology and that capability set up to a large degree. We had to accelerate it for a large number of people, but, some businesses obviously had to mobilise their workforce to work from home very quickly and almost started from scratch. And I think, again, we'll talk about this, but I think culturally there's been a shift. So I think that working from home for a lot of businesses and a lot of employees now is probably here to stay, at least part of the time, if not full time. With that come a few issues around IT security, obviously, with people using their own devices at home, using their own broadband, lots of potential issues around data breaches and data security. So that's I think going to be quite a big thing for most businesses now, with a lot of focus on that. Also, how do you monitor your staff? And this ties in a little bit, I think, with what Chris has been talking about in terms of MI and BI. So with people not working in the office every day, 9 to 5, rather than seeing your employees sat at their desk and seeing what they're doing, you don't really have that visibility. So, remote management using BI and MI tools, looking at deliverables, I think that's, much higher on the agenda now for you as an employer. And how do employees take time off? So holiday utilisation, people aren't generally taking kind of the odd day or the odd half day now for the chap coming around to fix the boiler or taking the kids somewhere because they're working from home. So there is that flexibility. So you're finding probably that people aren't using as much holiday. Maybe they've got holiday then stored up at the end of the year to carry over. And people are taking less sick leave as well. COVID aside, if people are getting ill, for maybe just a cold or touch of the flu, I think they're finding it harder to say, well, I can't make it to the office today when the office is at home. So people tend to kind of muddle through and work through when they're sick more. Now, there's lots of questions around productivity and cost savings, and again, the productivity side probably ties in quite well with the BI that Chris has been talking about, and how do you monitor that? But there could be, in some cases, downturns in productivity where people are working from home. Maybe they're not being managed as closely. But if there is, there's definitely an offset against cost savings there, with a lot of companies now to reduce office space. Again, within our business, we've over the last year reduced office space down a lot because we don't have people working in the office every day, and we're not planning to have everybody back in on a full-time basis. That's a big overhead for us. So we've seen a lot of cost saving there. I think that's the same for a lot of businesses. Even if there's a slight downturn in productivity, is that being offset in profit margins against cost savings that you can make in other areas? That said, we've actually seen a big uptick in productivity. Now that's partly related to the recruitment market actually picking up, which I could talk to you about shortly. But also there's I think people are just more happy working at home, got more flexibility, working in their own style, working hours to suit them. In some cases, working longer hours because they're at home, they can start early or finish late. So we're actually seeing an upturn in productivity, and I think some of our clients are as well, which is a positive when you combine that with the cost savings too. How do you engage your staff? I mean, that's quite a big thing as well at the moment for, if you've got people working remotely and you're doing video calls, video meetings with them, quite hard when you've got people all together in a team interacting to keep that engagement going. Tied in with that, obviously, video calls, the whole thing around etiquette. And I think I was dialing into calls like this a year or so ago where people were on mute and the camera was turned off and it wasn't working properly. I think people have got much more used to doing these kind of video calls and video meetings now. But again, there's a lot of things to consider how you engage with your staff and how you keep that culture going when, you might be working more remotely. And again, I touched on this, but there's a lot of blurring of lines around work-life balance, work, home, social. I'm quite lucky. I'm working from home today, but I'm sat in my study, which you can't see because of my background. But not everybody's got the benefit of having a place where they can shut themselves away to work that's separate to their living space. So there's been a lot of focus around mental health issues over the last year, and making sure that employees are taking that time out to actually get away from work if they are working from home. So those are some of the things I think will be here to stay with more flexible and remote working. In terms of the finance recruitment market itself, so I've got a couple of graphs here. These have literally just come out a few days ago from the REC. Who take a lot of data from recruitment businesses across the UK. And you can see there two graphs, so permanent placements and temporary billing, so an indicator of how many roles are being filled, both temporary and permanent. And also on the right-hand side, you've got permanent salaries and temporary wages, so again, how pay is being affected. So I think last year, it's fair to say that demand in the market fell very sharply. Back in end of March, beginning of April, as a recruiter, I furloughed just over 3/4 of my staff. The market was, on its knees. I had my head in my hands, thinking, my God, what's happened? As most recruiters and obviously a lot of business owners did. But it bounced back, and it bounced back relatively quickly. Once people started coming back into offices after the first kind of stringent lockdown finished, the market started to pick up towards the end of last year. We're actually getting more and more roles through, and you can see here on these graphs, these actually go up to June. Over the last month or two, there's been a huge spike in candidates being placed and taking new roles, and also obviously because of supply and demand, wages going up comparatively as well. So in terms of candidate availability, if you are looking as a recruiter to bring people into a finance team over the next few weeks or months, a few things to point out. So we did last year see a lot more available candidates, and obviously there were a spate of people that made redundant on long-term furlough that were looking for new roles. So there were quite a lot of available candidates, not necessarily all of them the highest quality, and a lot of people were sitting put. We are seeing some real candidate shortages now as the market starts moving again, but people are still quite nervous in the current climate about moving. Hopefully come July the 19th that might ease more, but at the moment with restrictions, a lot of people still don't want to move. Why is that? So there's just a general fear of moving. We've been through quite a tough time economically last year, although we've bounced back from it to a large degree. People are still worried about if they move and there's another lockdown and there's cuts made in the business they move to, is it going to be a case of last in, first out? So people are just generally very nervous. They've had other stuff to worry about. They might be self-isolating, they might have sick relatives, they might be getting used still to the work-life balance. Obviously last year, not so much now, but kids homeschooling, lots of pulls on people's time, lots of changes to people's lives that just meant that they just weren't that bothered about looking for a new role. So a real shortage of candidates coming to the market, and we're still seeing that. And then tied in with that, when candidates do come to market or we tempt them to look for another role, sometimes it gets to the final hurdle and they get an offer and they decide, actually, no, I don't want to move. It could be a good offer, it could be what they said they were looking for, but people are just still nervous and sitting tight. So, even the candidates that are getting offers, they're very often staying put, and sometimes because of counter offers as well. And I think a lot of companies are quite nervous about recruiting new people at the moment, or being able to recruit new people. So they're trying harder than ever to hang on to their current staff. And when they make a counter offer to somebody, because of that nervousness from the people, they're more likely to take that counter offer and stay. So for those reasons, we're seeing a real shortage of candidates that are actually either coming to market or accepting offers. So how do you combat that? Now, I'm going to do a slight sales pitch here, but as a recruiter, we're well networked, so we can go out and we can talk to our networks on LinkedIn, talk to our clients. We can find candidates that way. So we're having to do a lot more of that. We're not getting candidates applying in the same volumes they were to adverts, or just generally registering with us because they're looking for new roles. So we're having to do a lot of work in terms of attracting new candidates to come and look at roles. And I think the onus is falling more on you as an employer as well, if you are recruiting, to really sell your opportunity to a candidate, to persuade them why they should work for you. I think the days are very much gone of where, you sit with a candidate in an interview and expect them to tell you why they should work for you, and it's all about them selling themselves to you. That's almost flipped on its head now. You have to sell your opportunity. You have to give people reassurance that you're a stable employer. You have to give them some assurances that it's worth them making the move to come to you, and really take them on a journey. Again, if you are still interviewing by video, that can be quite flat. It can not give an idea of culture. So you sometimes have to maybe get them to go through a 2 or 3 stage process, hopefully quite succinctly, but meet other people. And if you can get them into the offices, if your offices are open, get them into, to meet people face to face. So some of the expectations around candidates have changed again quite drastically over the last year. So again, that initial talent attraction is more important than ever because candidates aren't coming to market. So if you're writing a job advert or you're working with an agency, you need to really, get out the message as to how good your role is and why should people come and look at it in the first place. Job security, really important. Again, as I mentioned, with redundancies, over the last few months, downturn in the economy, people are nervous about that. So if you are looking to attract people into your team, then you need to be giving them some assurances that your business is here to stay and that you're not making redundancies, not planning on making any redundancies. And then home working. So I touched on this earlier, but this is, I can't stress enough really how important this is to candidates at the moment. We've seen a real shift over the last few months of, pre-COVID, it was very much about candidates, turning down offers due to, very often the salary, the benefits, the long-term career prospects, the culture. A lot of the offers, and I say the majority of the offers we get turned down now, are based around an inability to agree on flexible working patterns. And there's, I think that, the issue here is that a lot of candidates currently do have the option to work from home, and they're being told by their employers that you can carry on working from home for the long term. It's not necessarily in their contracts. When they're going for a new role, they expect to get that contractual commitment. So a new employer might be saying to them, well, yeah, you can work from home 2 or 3 days a week. We haven't got an issue with that. We don't intend to change that. They're often unwilling to commit to that contractually because they don't have that in the contracts of their existing employees, and that's where it kind of falls down. The candidates want to see that commitment in writing. If they're leaving somewhere, they've got flexible working. They don't want to just take I suppose you call it a gentleman's agreement that they can carry on doing that with their new employer. So we are seeing a lot of offers being turned down because of that. So if you are recruiting, I would urge you to look at it or talk to HR department about what you can offer, either informally or hopefully formally in terms of flexible working, because that will help you to attract a lot of candidates, because people have got used to that flexible working. It suits their lifestyles now, and they don't want to give that up. And although offers aren't being turned down as much on the salaries and benefits package and opportunity, you do still need to give people a really good reason to move, with people being more hesitant. So you do need to be making sure that your package is attractive. As we looked at earlier, salaries and pay rates are rising quite sharply at the moment because of supply and demand at the market. So you do need to make sure you're being competitive. And again, candidates at the moment will assess the culture and the working environment. It's quite hard to do that when things have been done remotely. So as I touched on earlier, make sure that you are taking them on a journey, that you're giving them lots of reasons to come and join your business before you get to the point of making them an offer, and you're much more likely then to have that offer accepted. So how could this affect your finance structure? So, your team going forward, there's some benefits coming out of this. So we're finding a lot of clients are now sourcing candidates, not just in the local area, but nationally and even internationally. If you have got a flexible working policy, you need to question with some of your finance roles, do you need people in the office much or even at all? So, we've got clients in the Northwest, for instance, that are recruiting candidates out of the London market at the moment who can just work remotely. So it does open up a lot more opportunities for you. So if the candidate flow is quite tight in your area, you can open that up a lot more. Hours worked, are they important? Again, we've already touched on this, but do you need people to be working 9 to 5, or can you just let people work when they want to work, as long as they're getting the job done and using MI and BI to measure their deliverables? And that can apply, to your team, obviously looking at the deliverables in your team, but also it can create some quite interesting roles in your finance team I think as the wider organisation start to look more at LMI and BI and getting people more involved in your team in doing that and create more business partnering type roles. That can create some quite interesting opportunities for people in your finance teams. And then this isn't necessarily related to COVID as such. And again, I think this was touched on in Chris's presentation, but there's a lot of focus at the moment around process automation, traditional processing roles ending, new roles being created in teams that are looking more at the tech and the business partnering side. But one thing I would say is that's really been sped up by COVID. A lot of companies now are focusing on that more because there's been, again, a big change in working practices. They're relying more now on BI and MI, and therefore we're seeing a real shift towards process automation. I think COVID certainly put that higher on the agenda for a lot of businesses. So that's me. So if you've got any questions, do feel free to put them into the chat. I'm just going back into the chat actually, and I can see we've got a question from Nigel. So Chris, I'm just going to flip back to you. I've got a question from Nigel saying, is the tool cloud-based or does it need to be installed on the PC?
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me as well, because I had a problem with mute.
Chris, I think you're on mute.
Am I? One sec.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the tool is cloud-based, and the benefits then of that are for the fact that, as I mentioned, we, as an accountant and an advisor, we can be sat there with you going into this piece of software, and it's already got all of that data in. So we don't need to be relying on where a server's located or where a desktop's located. Actually, we could be sat in a boardroom looking at financial information and literally drill down into that financial information there and then. So yeah, it is all cloud-based. Great.
Thanks, Chris. If anybody's got any other questions for Chris or for myself, do feel free to type them in to the chat function. If not, I can't see any others coming through at the moment. So just want to say thank you to Chris for joining us this morning. Your presentation was really informative, really good. So thanks for giving up your time for us. If anyone does want to get in touch with Chris directly, then we'll make sure that slides and his contact details are circulated afterwards. And I also want to say thank you personally as well to joining us this morning. I hope you found it informative. We do a series of these, so again, I'll circulate the information afterwards, but I hope to see you at some future events. And I'll leave you now to enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you.